back with you after a little bit of an extended absence because of a little bit of some of it health, not all of it, but also some travel and the holidays, etc. Still been playing, still been gigging, but the actual amount of gigging has changed, I'd say a little bit, not overly significant, but at least has changed. And I am still recovering from non-COVID virus, some type of virus that I got, which didn't incapacitate me at all. In fact, since I think the last time that I was with you, we've been in Gulf Shores, Pensacola, the Outer Banks, several places. So, but just this nagging cough and a little bit of a health issue, but it's nothing that I don't think can totally get me down. But today's topic I wanted to talk about, I'm actually returning back to my family's place today. I'm going to be talking today about some different gigs, and this weekend in particular I have three separate gigs that are three entirely different gigs which require different types of music, different types of atmospheres. So I have a standing outdoor gig up in the mountains that's pretty standard. I kind of know what I need to do there, and on occasion the people who run that particular site will have a specific request or ask me to do something differently, but it isn't like really out of the norm, like crazy out of the norm. So not too much to worry on it. But then the next place that I had this weekend was actually at a Lutheran church, and a church that is very traditional. They hold very tight to their standards of how their services go, which is totally fine, except they are asking for an acoustic guitarist and singer to lead them, much like it would be when they have someone playing the organ or the piano and then someone else separately singing. So that makes a little bit of a challenge. And then the next thing that I have is I actually am doing a funeral, and funerals are in and of themselves much different. So let me break down the three gigs, and I'll spend most of the time on the latter two, not the first one. The first one, I handle everything, so I am given kind of a guidance on here's what the topic's going to be for this outdoor church service, but thereafter very little is asked of me, and like trying to combine my music with the sermon, or you have the normal things that you'll deal with, like the holidays. You want to do holiday-driven songs, but I can't think of a single time that I have been asked by the organizers of this event to do specific songs with a specific theme. So that one, I don't want to say it's easy, because that would minimize what I do, and it's not that it's easy, it's just I have a routine. I sort of know, I guess, from the start of the week what direction to go, and charts and all of that. Now, the second gig that I had was at the Lutheran church, as I mentioned. And I've done this before, where I've gone into churches that have had traditional music such as organs, pianos, and choirs and those kind of things. And I have brought an acoustic guitar and done this. So in that facet, what I tend to do, because unless you're a really great guitarist like Pat Metheny or someone like that, which I am not, you are switching from a organ sound to an acoustic guitar sound. And on occasion you can finger pick enough on most of their traditional songs that they like to sing to be close. But even then, if you're not careful, it kind of upstages the whole point of what it is that you're there to do. And as a hired gun, you're not there to entertain or put on a show. You're there to accompany, and you're there to serve in the capacity of what they would maybe have from someone else. So from my perspective, what I tend to do is I tend to collaborate very closely with the pastor or the lector or whomever I'm dealing with, and I will ask for a copy if they have a hymnal that they generally use, and I'll go through that, and in some cases I'll even pre-record just a snippet and send it over to them just to make sure that what I'm doing sounds like what they're used to, they're accustomed to. I do read music to sing. I don't read it very well to play, and I am not a good sight reader playing. I can sight read and sing, but to play, not so much. I usually have to sit down and chart everything, and I typically run things more in a national number system overall most of the time, or I'll just record out what it is I need to do. But that doesn't always work for those who I'm going to be playing for, and the whole point of them having me come in is to offset what they're missing from their standard accompanist. So I strongly suggest that if you find yourself in that situation, a couple of things that you want to do there is be upfront, let whomever is hiring you know, hey, this is not going to sound the same. So I want to make sure that what I'm going to offer to you will work, because I don't want your parishioners, congregation, standing there looking at you, looking down at their music or their words and thinking, oh no, we know the title of this song, but it sounds nothing like what we would normally sing, or the way we normally sing. Sorry about that, I'm driving through, there's lots of downed trees here because of a snowstorm that came through, and I'm trying to avoid some remnants of that on this back road coming out of the Great Smoky Mountains. The last gig that I'm going to be doing this weekend is a funeral, as I said, and the funeral songs and things of that nature are not typically upbeat, not typically, you're not trying to rally the troops. More often than not, people are sad, they are distraught, there is stress, they're hurt, they are grieving. And so the music and the accompaniment most often needs to match that attitude and that persona to a degree, but not always in a funeral dirge kind of feeling or format, but in a comfort format. And the one that I'm going to be doing, it's a Christian family, evangelical Christian in the South, and their loved one, very religious. So the type of songs that I will choose for that, and usually families will tell me what they want sung, but on occasion they will say, just, would you sing a couple of songs? In that case, I will almost 100% of the time, can't think, in fact, I think 100% of the time in my life, I've always gone back to them to say, here are some options. Do any of these work, or are they all okay? And really what I'm doing is I'm trying to avoid singing something that may stir some bad emotions, and I'll tell you why. Because I had a situation where I played, and the person who was paying me, of all people, to play, he had a real hurt point or a real pain point with a particular song, and I knew nothing about it. And this was early in my career, and so I began to sing this song, and this guy, this very successful mountain of a man, he's a very successful businessman, he just crumbled. And it really, I felt horrible. And so I later found out that song was his father's favorite song, and he just, anytime he heard it, he turned it off. He couldn't take it. The pain of his deceased father was too great for him to bear. And I felt unbelievably horrible. So I have just made it, that's one of those earmarks for me. Make it a point to offer the songs you plan to sing. And I had this to happen actually at a gig that I had done multiple times. I sent over a song set or a set list, and one of the songs, the promoter or the organizer said, can't do that song. And I said, okay. is there a particular reason? And there was some wording in the song that his audience, he felt like, would look at that as being offensive, even though this song was very common and sung a lot. And again, if I were in a listening room environment where I'm singing my own songs, people are paying, they're paying to come and hear me sing or what have you, maybe I'd approach that differently. If I were some massive star, I might kind of stake myself a little harder. But that's not the point of why I'm there, and there's no need of me causing controversy or hurt. So I said, hey, how about if I do a different wording? And I offered some different variations on the wording, and the organizer was like, hey, that's great, I like it, and that's what I did there. So there is another type of gig that I have done recently, and that I enjoy. I don't do this often, but it is actually going in and subbing in for people, for conductors and things of that nature. And in that scenario, much like the example I gave you of the Lutheran church, I give the musicians, because most often the musicians I deal with are professional. They can handle either whatever charts, but I will generally reach out to the musicians or the conductor or both, and I will just ask, hey, I'm going to send over some charts. What kind do you like? Do you want numbers? How do you want it done? Most of them will just say, like a guitarist, they'll just say just standard guitar charts are fine, and any of the other conductor scores will work as well. And then if it is a group that I don't know very well, I'll ask them to meet early and for us just to hit some spots on the music, and we'll walk through that. Prior to, I generally email them the instructions. So if I'm going to make some changes, if there are going to be some measures that we're going to cut, I'll give them all that in writing on the front end and then reiterate that again as well. So I hope this has been helpful. I hope it's been of interest to you, especially for someone like myself that I work different venues, but I don't work the same set list at every venue. I actually I work just about a different set list every week, and in some cases I can work different sets or different venues and actually have different set lists 2 or 3 times in one weekend. Not my optimal thing, not what I enjoy doing per se. I'd rather just have 50 songs and whatever the number is and sing those same songs over and over. But it does keep me on my toes. It keeps me being creative, and I appreciate the challenge that it gives me as well. Thanks so much for listening. Appreciate you coming, checking in, and been getting a few emails, so appreciate that as well. Still working on some behind-the-scenes things to maybe make this podcast a little more interesting and a little more engaging to you. And so as I'm doing that, just keep an eye out, and any feedback that you'd like to give, feel free to do so. Thanks so much. Be safe.